What if you got off that treadmill of attempting to build wealth and just floundering and truly became a warrior to wealth, and you just got on a path and you made it your mission every day that you were going to create generational wealth for yourself, your family, and for any other entity that may benefit from what you do? Jon Berryhill, you are here today to help us get
That's
that
right.
level of clarity and make things happen.
That's it. Yeah, that's what we're working towards. That's what we've been working towards for about 18 years now.
It's amazing. So you're an entrepreneur and
Y-
you're a great family man, and you're former military. At what point did you say, you know what? I need more structure. I need more passion. I need to know that I am building wealth and what I'm doing every day is going to have an impact on my future self and my family.
Yeah, it's let me tell you when it was. It was when my life was in chaos. I was my marriage was on the shambles. We'd filed for divorce. I was a police officer, just gotten out of the military, had a lot of just negative things going on, and finally woke up, in the middle of the night, early in the morning. Good Lord just laid something on my heart. And I just said, you know what? Enough's enough. This is not the life that I'm going to live. I'm not going to repeat. I come from a broken home and, poverty, just, it was not any young kid should have to live that kind of life. And so I was like, you know what, enough's enough. And I called my wife and I said, hey, if you'll take me back, we haven't went through a divorce yet. I will give you the life that, people dream of. Now, how I'm going to do that, I don't know. So if you got to hang in there with me. So that was my kind of hook to catch her and say, please come back and stay with me, So that's when I was like, okay, I'm fixing to lean into this warrior mentality that I've been trained to do over, 10 years of time. And I'm going to figure out how to build some wealth.
And you were trained with being military and police, amazing training, but you were really trained, correct me where I'm wrong, to excel at that loyalty, dedication, passion, and making it happen for an entity, a group, and others. And it
That's
sounds
right.
like this shift was you were going to take that training and turn it inward for yourself and for your wife,
Yeah,
which would
that's
in
right.
turn
So
would be for family.
yeah, I'd also played, college athletics. I was a linebacker for the University of North Alabama
Mm-hmm.
and, being part of some elite groups in the infantry unit. In the military, I was an infantry sergeant, getting out, working narcotics, working some undercover, working with the narcotics task force. I used all the hard things, the hard things that we don't want to do each and every day. No one wants to get up and go run miles every day. But, in the military, you lean into that because guess what? That's your identity. You either lean in or you don't, and you don't do well. So
Right,
that's what I
right.
started doing is I started leaning into the uncomfortableness of, yeah, this is going to be uncomfortable, but I know there's going to be a good outcome to it because I can work it out on paper and see that if I do these uncomfortable things, even though I'm not motivated or I don't feel like it, then the results are still going to come. And that's what happens. If you get up and exercise every day, guess what? No matter what, you're going to be in better health than you are if you don't do it.
Right, right. Yeah, that blind faith and that accumulation effect, that if you just keep doing it and you keep showing up, that you're going to have an effect and an impact and a result. Talk about being uncomfortable.
Yeah. So,
That phone call had to be uncomfortable.
the phone call was
You-
very uncomfortable. I'd been unfaithful to my wife and I didn't want to tell her, and in my head, I'm thinking, I felt, I was battling with my spiritual, saviors. I was like, Lord, my wife I don't need to hurt her. So she don't need to know this. So for 2 years, I fought that. And 2 years in, I was like, I've got to tell her the truth. Even though I thought in my head, I was lying to myself because I was like, she doesn't need to know these things. I don't want to hurt her again. And so I did. I confessed it. And, you ever heard saying the truth will set you free? Listen, that moment on our marriage, and this was about 19 years ago. I'll tell you when it was. It was in 2004, 2005.
okay.
So actually, it's been longer than that. Wow, time flies by. So anyway,
Yeah.
I just sat down with her and just told her. I said, "Hey, here's the truth." And I just vomited on her, and she was, of course, in tears. And I was just like, But you know what? From that moment on, our marriage has never been different. It has never been the same. And, today, I chase her around the house being silly in front of the kids and grandkids. And it's been awesome. And not only that, but our life has been great. Now, don't get me wrong. There's always peaks and valleys and everything. You got to work
Right.
at things to make them
Right.
work, But, I had a vision and I was going to figure out how to get there. And that's the hard part, is to figuring out the how, but keeping that vision in front of me every day and leaning into my identity as a warrior because of my training, and remembering that the reason I excelled in the military is because I leaned into that identity. The reason I'm going to excel as being a father, a husband, is I'm going to lean into that identity and do what a good father and a good husband should do. And just like a good soldier, a good law enforcement officer, a great or good collegiate athlete. And so that's what I did.
Did she say yes right away? You know,
She
you
said yes
called her
without-
and said, hey,
she-
was she like, sure,
did.
come on back. Everything's
She
great.
did. She did.
That's
She
awesome.
says, she says, I loved you from when we started dating at 17, and I've been waiting on you. And I thought, what a woman. And today we sit here on a few 100-acre farm that we had dreamed of. That's what we dreamed of then. When she came, she was in Hawaii with her sister. Hey, spending time with her, and been over there for a few months with my daughter, who was 1 year old at the time. And when she came back, we just sat down and started talking about our dreams. Like, wouldn't it be amazing to live on, some, 20, 30 acres? Now we live on almost 300 acres. Wouldn't it be awesome to raise horses? We have some awesome quarter horses. So all these things that we just sat there and talked, we have worked hard to achieve them. And we're living the dream today. All of our kids live on the farm. They have houses on the farm. My grandkids live on the farm. Again, don't get me wrong. It's still hard work. We have to get out there and fight to keep what we have, and, get out there and fight the battle and make sure we're paying the bills and all that stuff. But we have multiple businesses. All of our kids and in-laws work for one of the businesses. And so we're super thankful. And I'm excited, to share Warrior to Wealth, my book, with everyone when it comes out in July. And so, I'm just super pumped. Again, it's still hard work, but I enjoy it.
Well, I just want to ask one more question around this, because on the interstate, we really focus in on that we lead ourselves first. And as you've referenced, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and you have to dig in and do things that are hard. You ever think back on the easy route, which from what you're describing probably would have been easier to not make that call, or to not share all the truth, right? How did you find that courage to set aside whatever ego, beliefs, arguments, and say, like, nope, I'm reaching out and I'm going to just ask her for this chance and give it my all? Like, how did you find that courage to make even that first phone call?
I think it was, I was so uncomfortable being uncomfortable. And I said, something has got to change. And I knew it needed to start because my mom and dad got divorced at an early age. It was just a mess. It was chaos as a child from the time I was 5 years old. And I just remember that as a child, thinking at times when I was 10, 11 years old that no one should have to live through this. And I just remembered that. No, we were nowhere at that. We were just, we were still cordial. We loved each other. We just separated because literally I was just being a dirtbag. And so, not to her. I've always treated her like a queen. And I just said, enough's enough. And I said, I'm going to call her, and she may tell me to take a hike. And that's something I'm going to have to live with, but I'm not going to give up. Now I'm ready to change. I'm tired of being uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. I don't have money in the bank, living paycheck to paycheck. My relationship's horrible, and so I was like, it all starts here, relationships with my spouse. I've got to get that set before I can move on any further. And then if you got children, you got to get that right. And so, there's kind of, as I say, step 1, step 2, step 3. Number 1 was getting my life right with the Lord. Number 2 was my wife and my little girl. And then it was time to get after it.
Yeah. And you did. You ended up having 5 more children. Right?
I did. Yep. 5 more children.
And what stands out to me as well is that once the two of you knew that you're like, all right, we are coming together and we're going to make this work. You talked about goals and big dreams. And the way I describe it is, it sounds like both of you got into action on, all right, what do we do to make those dreams real? And it sounds like the conversation stayed alive.
Well, I've heard a saying, and I've always tried to live by it. If you're not dreaming, you're dying. And so, I've always wanted to have, and I still have dreams and goals and aspirations today. For things for me and my family to do. We've had dreams of renting a private island, and I did that 2 years ago for Christmas. We rented a private island in Belize with a staff, and it was awesome. And we were sitting there, my wife and I, just like, my goodness, are we really doing this? Like, what have we done? Now, don't get me wrong, it was expensive and I worked hard
Mhm.
and saved up money to do it, but I wanted to do it. And so all 10 of us with 2 of my grandbabies, we all went and, we had dreams to have a farm. We just sat there and wrote. I just remember us when she got back, we just sat there and I said, look, I'm going to do this. I don't know how, but let's talk about our dreams. I got to have a mission. I got to have a vision here. As some people call it their why. What's my why? My why
Right.
was her
That's right.
and then my children. But I had to have a vision to get there. And so we just talked about raising our kids on a farm. We could just see our children running around barefoot and playing with the horses and this. And so, that's that vision and dream was part of my why. And that was the fuel that got me to just really go. And because we were talking and doing it together, it was even more important. And I think that's important, especially if you're married, is to talk together to make sure your dreams are aligned together, because it just seems like
Right.
when you accomplish it, no matter if it's a new car or whatever, because I remember getting a new car thinking, holy moly, we've got a new car. Hannah and I never had a new car.
Right.
I went in the Army E1 and got out as an E5 sergeant. You didn't make much money back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Then I got into law enforcement. So I remember the first time we got a nice new car. That was one of our goals and dreams. Man, together we were like, oh my gosh, literally we drove 2 hours to our hometown down in Fayette, Alabama and back to Huntsville, Alabama, just because we wanted to ride in our new car. It was fun, but it was our dream together. So,
Right.
it was good for us to talk together and do it together.
So you leaned in on, as you mentioned, what you had learned in terms of being a warrior in making things happen. And you
Right.
applied that to the dreams, saving your marriage, building your family and your dreams. How directly have you applied this now to wealth building?
So, I got into sales. Once I got into sales and I got a taste of that, like, holy moly, you mean I make a sale, I get paid and no one caps me at that? I'm not paid hourly or just a
Right.
salary like in the Army or police. I got a little taste of that and that's what lit me on fire. So I got into medical sales after that. Quickly after, I was selling magazine ads for a health magazine, and
Mhm.
I got my first commission check, and I was just puzzled. Like, you can do this? Like, I could have sold 10 and got 10 of these. So I
Right.
got an offer to go into medical sales I was selling an article to the owner of a healthcare company. And he liked me so much and said, you ever thought about getting into medical sales? I'm like, no, but I'd be open to it,
Mhm.
and literally he hired me. He offered me a job, and I called Hannah. I walked out, I said, this guy just offered me a job on the spot. Now, I was also doing some job interviews with some big companies, huge companies, and got some job offers. But long story short, that's what got me into healthcare medical sales. And within a few years, 3.5 years, I started my own company to support what I was doing for him, with his permission. And then, 6 months after me starting my own company, kept him on as a consultant. But I went and started running my first company. 2.5 years in, I sold my first company to a company out of San Diego, California. And that was the start of my entrepreneur, doing acquisitions, creating businesses. And then fast forward to now, we still own a healthcare medical device company, a government contracting company, and 3 real estate brokerages. And then we run our farm here.
That's fantastic. So I'm just going to ask a very candid question. You and I both, because we both have that shared interest and long-standing career in real estate, just because people make a lot of money doesn't mean they build wealth.
That's correct.
So,
Or happy.
what else did you do? So you found that ability to earn high income, your entrepreneurial skills came forth, but to me, there's still a gap between that and building true wealth. So how did you keep yourself with that goal of, I am building what I would call generational wealth?
Yeah. So we're still building generational wealth, as I'd say. We own a lot of property. So we bought, like our farm is a few hundred acres. I own also property around North Alabama, Southern Tennessee. I've also bought vacation homes to where I sell them. I'll buy a vacation home and sit on it for 3 years and sell it because I know what it's going to do. You buy in a good spot. 3 years later, it goes up 40%, 40%. Boom, you cash out 1031, it go to another one. Or you buy some property, just raw land. I love doing that because I like to hunt, number one. So I'll hunt it for a few years and I'll sell it.
Right.
Or I'll buy it and cut it up and sell it lots. So I do a lot of that kind of stuff. But our companies that we have now, we're building our healthcare company, our government contracting company. We're still engaged. Matter of fact, we're submitting a large bid to the government by the end of this week, a very large bid. With intent to get it. So we're still in that transition or not transition. We're still in that, place in life where we're trying and continuing to build to where our grandkids will still be working for the family legacy. And that was one of my other
Nice.
dreams was, I want my sons to be able to work for me and with me one day. Well, three of them do, my 19-year-old, my 21-year-old, my 24-year-old, 25-year-old. They all work for me. My daughter and her husband work for me. And so, we're building the family legacy, as you'd say, the generational wealth. We're still in that process. I'm going to do it to the day I pass away. Hopefully that's a lot of many years from now, but
Right.
that's our goal and that's our plan. We're continuing to do that to where with that intent of leaving our children's children an inheritance.
And it sounds like you, to use your phrase, you lean in on that. So you're still leaning in on being that husband, being that father, being that grandfather, being that
Absolutely.
future great-grandfather. So
That's the number
tell us
one.
a little bit about how do you keep that front and center? Do you have a morning routine? Do you incorporate it into affirmations or a prayer or meditation? How do you keep that passion alive?
All the above. So yes, I have a morning routine. My wife and I do. I do a lot of prayer. I do a lot of affirmations. I do a lot of grounding and I do a lot of health protocols, spiritual stuff. I love to pray. I love to walk my land and with a heart of gratitude. First thing in the mornings is speaking gratitude. I don't say anything except the first things out of my mouth is I am thankful for, my spouse, where I live, the opportunities that's given to me, my children. And so, yes, I have these routines. But then it's also about being intentional. When I'm with my wife, I try and do my best to look her in the eye and I tell her how much I love her, how beautiful she is. Studies show you look a woman in the eye and you mean what you say, their oxytocin levels, are 10 times higher. So I want her to feel good and special around me. I want her to feel safe. The same with my children. I want them to feel good and safe around me. I want them to know that their dad is a provider, a protector, and that's the warrior mentality that I have leaned into over the years. And being intentional, you can have a busy life, but if you're intentional with that time, I always say quality over quantity. It goes a long way. You can spend 10 hours with someone and never have a conversation. One thing is because of cell phones; those are a big thing.
Right.
But the other thing is, or I could spend 1 hour with someone and have a just eye-to-eye conversation, very intent, the intimacy there. And it's better than a 10-hour non-conversation. So intentional is real big in my life is I try my hardest to be intentional with whatever I'm doing.
Well, one of the things that you clearly got very intentional about is writing this book.
That's right.
A stat that staggers belief is that somewhere between 74 and 78% of people want to write a book, and only around 3 to 4% actually do.
I can understand why.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about that? When were you so inspired? You're like, man, I got to share this word of wealth. I got to write this book. And tell us a little bit more about how you made that happen.
Yeah, about 6-7 years ago, I started having a number of other veterans, law enforcement guys, athletes, people wanting to become entrepreneurs reach out to me. People I never know, people I never knew. Some people I knew, some people I didn't. Hey, they'd message me on Facebook. They'd text me. I got your number from. Hey, you got a time? You got a second for me? Can I drop by your office? Can I come by your farm? And
can I pick your brain? Did you ever get that?
Yep. How do I get the life you got? And so it started, I started getting this curiosity about, maybe I should do a coaching program. Maybe I should do a mentorship program. I was talking to people and I've never done it. I've always just mentor and coach people for nothing. And, cause I love to help people. I've helped quite a few guys start businesses, and they're very successful today, very successful. Sometimes it's just, telling someone you believe in them. Hey man, I believe in you. I know you can do this. Hey sister, I know you're capable of this. You're way more capable than I was, And so, just giving someone that belief. So, 2.5 years ago, I started thinking about it. Well, then my son, who was playing college football at the time, started asking me some of the same questions. And I was like, you know what? My son's asking me, people are asking me. I've got, multiple, my daughters ask me. I'm sure one day I'm going to have grandkids. They're going to start asking me. I probably need to start writing a book. I think, God just kind of put it in my head that maybe you should start writing a book. Well, what's a book going to be called? And my gosh, this is something else. I told my wife and she's like, you're going to start something else? I said, no, I'm just going to start writing a book. And she goes, okay. So, I started writing down things just that was in my mind. We'd be traveling, we'd be on an airplane, and I would just be over there typing or talking, kind of dictating some stuff. And it just came to life. Warrior to Wealth came to life, and it just dawned on me. And I said, you know what? Somebody needs to hear this, that they're capable of doing it, because I never would have believed in myself at the age of 17 or 18 that I could accomplish what I did today. But if I'd have had maybe a little bit of a guidance or a reference guide, maybe I'd have done it sooner. And so that's where it came to life. And that's the whole intent is my grandkids can read the book and see their Papa John and where he came from.
Right.
B, some other ex-military, law enforcement, potential future entrepreneur that wants to do this can read about this country boy in Alabama and hey, if that guy can do it, I can do it. And that's the whole mentality.
I think it's remarkable. I am really looking forward to getting a copy of it when it is published. And it's coming out July 2026.
That's right. Yep.
With your approach, and I clearly, the warrior title, and with your background, it is going to appeal to former military and veterans and former police officer. But I believe what you've constructed and built, it really is something that anyone that's on fire
absolutely
for making change in their life, they would also be able to pick that up, claim and declare that they're a warrior,
That's
and
right.
they could make that happen in their own world. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's right. This book isn't just for some specific gender or profession. This book is for someone that wants the warrior mentality that says, you're right, I'm going to conquer this. Because let me tell you, a warrior knows why he's fighting. They know who he's fighting and who they're fighting for. So I knew why, and I knew who, and I knew who for, so my enemy was me, is I had to get past all the uncomfortableness of, I don't want to do that. It's easy to go clock in and clock out. It was easy going to combat and going to starting a business, because I knew my mission there. Now I'm having to create my own mission and figure these things out. But, it just took some self-belief and my wife continuing to encourage me over the years. And she's still my number one encourager today, her and my children. And so, yes, this book is for someone that wants to do different in their life. They can read this and maybe pick up some nuggets and go, that's it right there. That's what I've been missing is, self-belief, vision. What is my why? Because, you can ask a lot of people, what's your why? And people go, what's my what?
Right.
And so, that's the key.
Or you ask them their why, and I'm sure this happened for you, John. They'll be like, my big why is my children and my future grandchildren. And you can tell there's no connection or passion. Like it's like some formulaic, what
it's
you're
like,
supposed to say.
Right.
I want to be, here's
your
another
identity.
favorite. I want to be financially independent and be able to go on adventures. Okay. And I'm not putting that down. We all start somewhere, but I'm talking about. There's a disconnect. Like you don't see them tearing up. You don't see the emotion behind why they're saying that financial independence and being an adventurer is important to them.
Exactly.
So
I've been on.
You help them get clarity on that.
Exactly. I've been on stage a few times, and when I had the pleasure to go talk to some folks, and I was in Dallas talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs on stage, and one of the questions was, because it was kind of an interaction thing, and so one of the questions I had to answer in front of 1,000 entrepreneurs was, what's your why? And when that hit me, I started talking, and it just lump got in my throat, and I was like, I got to stop for a second, because my why is very emotional. My why is fixing the things that I shouldn't have done and being able to give someone else a life that I feel they deserved, which I know they did. But I had wrecked. And so plus I saw the end result of going the other way, the way I was going, which was going to lead more chaos and a wreck of children that had no choice in the matter, but I could fix all that. And so it's very emotional. And, when I do start talking a lot about it, I do get a little teary eyed and a lot choked up, and sometimes, it's hard to talk about. But yeah, you've got to have some emotion tied to it, because that's what's going to get you out of bed on the mornings you don't want to get up, and that's what's going to take you in to cold call someone when you go, I do not want to do this again today. Oh, yes, you are, because this your why. And what is? Oh, then you see that why and you go, yep, I'm going. And so yeah, it has to be. You got to be uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's right. Yeah. And it's funny that when you mention that, so often people allow and choose for their mood to be stronger and a bigger priority than their why. If you find that happening every day, then guess what? You don't have the right why.
No, exactly.
Not that any are right or wrong, but it's not the one that will just consume you to the point where it will always be stronger than a mood. And even if you have to trick yourself and be like, okay, make calls for 10 minutes, to like start it. Oftentimes, once you start, you don't stop. You keep going,
That's right. And that's why, the saying discipline over motivation beats it every time, because doing the things that needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. It's the same thing what you're saying.
That's right.
And so discipline and a very clear why, military or law enforcement, your mission, and that's why the book, it starts out, find your mission, forge your identity, and build your legacy. That's the three things that we focus on. And, those are key. You've got to have that why, and it has to be big. It has to be, like you said, emotional, to where some days you're just, you're so frustrated because it's not happening. And that's why that's why you continue the fight.
That's right. Yeah. It gives you that fuel to keep that fight going. If we could stay here for a minute, one of the things I've run into in coaching people, highly successful people, sometimes they do feel as if there's a right why and a why that's too materialistic or not really important. How do you guide people? Like, your why and what is going to get you excited is very personal to you. And as long as it's rooted, I think, in something of integrity.
Yes.
If that gets you up and out of bed, go for it. It doesn't have to be, what are the classic, top 10 classic or top 3, family, health, wealth, but it could be more than that. And it's okay if it's something different.
Right. There's a lot of people that's not married. And so they're not going to have a why. Absolutely. I've seen a lot of single men and women that I've talked to, coached, mentored, and they're telling me their why. And I'm telling you, man, they get so like fired up, and I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Let's go. Well, here, let's talk about this. And so absolutely. I mean, hey, you know what? It could be a new car. I know it's materialistic.
Absolutely.
But if you're so passionate about that because you've never tasted that before,
that's right.
Then there is nothing wrong with that. I think, we'll refer to the Bible. The Bible says the love of money is the root to all evil. And that's the truth. It's the love of that certain thing of money, but money is a tool, just like having a brand new car to get you around. And, those things are things that make you feel certain ways. There's no incorrect answer or no incorrect why. It's what drives you and what's going to push you through the uncomfortableness when you go, hey, I'm going to do it anyway. And this is why.
Right. And it is okay. Sometimes if that initial fuel, that rocket boost that is going to get you to the next level, it might be materialistic. A young man pops to mind for me, and he had this dream that he wanted to get a particular Rolex. It wasn't even a brand new one. It was like one of the limited edition, like secondary market. He wanted to get that for his father. And boy, that lit him up. Like, when he was just working for himself, he kept choosing mood over discipline. And, I don't want to call people. And I don't really need to preview property. Like, he was really getting his own way. The minute he's like, if I did this, I could get that Rolex for my dad. And it wasn't so much the Rolex. It was the pride he felt in himself. That he had built his life to the point where he was paying his own life and could get that Rolex for his dad. Yeah. So not that we have to stay here too long. I want people to hear it. Find what gets you that level of excited. Where you're like, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it before the end of this year, and allow yourself to lean into it. Using your phrase again.
Hey, listen, once I started making money, I wanted a big Ford Dually F450. Like, I wanted that truck so bad. And guess what? It's parked in my driveway along with a few other trucks and stuff. Because
is it in the color that you wanted?
Oh, it is. It's black, jet black. It's got big old wheels on it, spikes on the wheels. It's got my farm logo on the side door. But yeah, sometimes having those things makes you see that you're conquering your goals and stuff. And there's nothing wrong
That's
with
right.
that. You got to have some benchmarks to show that, hey, what I'm doing is, being progress. There's progress here. Why is that? Because I look out and there's a Ford F-450. My family's well taken care of. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. And if
Yeah.
someone else says there's something wrong with it, I'd be like, get out of here.
That's right. That's
To
right.
each his own.
That is exactly right. Jon, I'm really curious. So you and we're surrounded by entrepreneurs. I'm sure you're surrounded by founders. We are spending a lot of time with mavericks and business people, right? And
Right.
yet I'm confident there's people listening to you and I right now that are in a more traditional structured career. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible for someone that is in what I'll call a more traditional 9-to-5 W-2 career job, can they also build wealth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as I told you, I have real estate brokerages. I've got 56, 7 agents. There's about probably 20 of them that are part-time because they have a traditional 9-to-5 job, or it may not be 9-to-5. It may be shift work. It may be 10-to-6 or yeah.
Yeah.
And so, listen, this is what I tell everyone, be the best, whatever you are. If warrior to wealth, that means, listen, if you are working that as a police officer and you love it, then lean into it. Make that be the best that you're doing. And then if you want to create wealth on the side, hey, get your real estate license, start a business. There's tons of stuff that you can do if you want more, but you love what you do. There's nothing wrong with that. Or even if you don't want to do that, you just want to be the best in your field, what you're doing. And I always say, if you're doing the right thing, you're the best you can be, wealth is going to find you. The money's going to find you, or you're going to develop the mentality of, hey, I could do this on the side, or I could do this. Absolutely, you can. There's a lot of part-time real estate folks out there, and they are crushing it. I've got one real estate part-timer. She's making double what she makes on her 9-to-5 part-time with me. So, and she's shoving it in a bank account, and, rock on for her. I love it. She says, oh, that's my grandchildren's trip money right there. Oh, that's this trip money here. And I said, perfect.
Right. So she's funding some of that adventure.
Yeah, she is. She's building wealth too. She's buying properties, doing stuff like that.
Well, that's another thing. It's a lot of times when you have that stable income, I'll call it, that's documented, you could start building a portfolio. You could start getting rental properties. You could start buying dirt. You could, so there's options out there. There's more options than that as well, but
yes.
Yeah, just don't feel as if, well, these two sound like they're having fun, but I love my career and I've already put 30 years into it. I'm not leaving it now. That's
I don't
fine.
blame you.
You can still
absolutely.
You can still
cash that one out too. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. That's a question I have too for you, because I know you're so honed in on this. Is it ever too late? Is anyone ever too old or too?
And I think that's a common lie that people believe. I'm 62 years old. It's too late. Listen, one of my oldest real estate agents was 82 years old. He just retired. And this was he had already retired from 2 other jobs.
Right.
And so he left the real estate, and love him to death. But the biggest lie you'll believe, if it's too late or that's not for me, or no, that's everybody, that may be for other people. No. Whatever you believe that you can conquer, whatever you feel that you want to achieve, then you just have to quit listening to those lies and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Reach out to someone. Call. Man, there are so many people that would help folks. I mean, I'll help anybody that sends me an email or calls me or something. I'll give them some guidelines. I'd say, hey, number one, get the Warrior to Wealth book when it comes out in July. But
that's right.
Absolutely.
And get clarity.
It's never too late. Yes.
And get clarity on
what's
that,
your vision?
The why, the who, and the who for. Yeah,
that's
you
it.
Get that clarity.
That's it. So never too late to start. And, I think this whole deal of you work 20 years and retire. Number one, I don't like the word retire. That sounds very
I don't either.
Deathly, like retire.
We have that in common.
Yeah. Like, why am I going to retire? Like, what am I going to do? So, I always tell my wife, until the day I die, I'm always going to be doing something to create some kind of money, financial gain. I may not be doing it as much. I'm always going to have some kind of animals on my farm because I love horses.
Right.
And so, that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy conquering those things. I can't imagine retiring and just sitting, and I don't know what I would do. Like, if you told me today, hey, you can retire, I'd be like, what am I going to do? Like, if I got to do something to conquer something. Like I got to have some go. Now, listen, I love traveling, but the way I travel, it's very expensive. And so I got to make sure I got some good funds coming in.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited about what you're doing with this book and what you're doing with the businesses. I agree with you. That retirement, there's a bit of a trap there. Not saying we don't want financial security and independence and options.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But there's something about the R word that is almost like you're giving up on growth and learning and staying active and current.
Yeah.
So it is
I've got a lot of retired
how,
military guys that are working for me as agents right now, real estate agents. They did 25.
And they make such great agents.
They are.
They're so good.
My father-in-law, retired colonel from the Army, went to work for the Corps of Engineers, retired from there, went to teach at the University of Alabama. I mean, that guy kept going, and I think he's actually, yesterday was his birthday. He turned 79, and so I think now he's slowing down, but and he's always been someone to look at like, oh my gosh, he just keeps going, keeps doing things, and he's had businesses of his own on the side. So it's been awesome to watch him as well. He's been a big mentor. I met him. My wife's brother and I were buddies in high school, and they retired out of the military. I met Hannah at 9th grade. We didn't start dating until we were 17, but I knew her father from the time I was in 9th grade. Very respectful man, awesome, and just to be able to see him, all these years.
Right. That's really remarkable.
It is. It's awesome.
It sounds like you've had, just such and it's continuing, but you're building this life by design, not default.
Right.
And that you are clearly willing to make yourself uncomfortable and even buck some societal trends.
Yeah. Well, we've homeschooled. That was not a good trend that people, we homeschooled, years ago when it wasn't cool.
And I didn't even know that when I said that. I could just sense that.
Yeah. My daughter's 26, 2 sons. That's 2 of my grandboys, 2 of them. She was homeschooled. All my kids are homeschooled. Now, my son got to go play high school sports, but he just showed up at boys athletics 7th period and practiced football.
Right.
That, and then, just we always, and one of the reasons we did that is because my wife always wanted to be the most influential in them. So we get to travel when no one else was traveling because they were in school. So we always loved that. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was so good. Yeah.
And you just did it. So you've got a fearlessness that I think comes through.
Yeah. It's the warrior mentality is, not saying we like to buck the systems, but, I don't think we all have to do everything the same way,
Right.
But, I think this, who's it? Tony Robbins that said, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So we just changed our system up a little bit.
Right. And I guess the other thing that stands out to me is, and I want to ask this because I would bet money anyone who's still listening to us right now probably has some failure in their life. They probably have times they've disappointed themselves. They might be disappointed in themselves today, and they're listening to you and I because they're like, I just got to get out of my head. Let me listen to these two talk, right?
Yeah.
And you're not saying you're perfect or that you've ever been perfect, but you picked yourself up, you got uncomfortable, you faced difficult things, and you asked really hard questions. And if someone is feeling that doubt or disappointment in themselves or that they're a failure, what word can you give them, or what message could you give them where they could dig deeper and pull out their best?
Forgive and forget. Listen, I had affairs on my wife. If you think that's perfect by any means, you need to get off this. No, I'm just kidding. I struggled with forgiving myself for a long time. And once I confessed to my wife, and then after months of still struggling with it, she finally said, "Hey, John, forget that. That's in the past. I forgave you. I'm here with you right now, and I don't want to be anywhere else." And once I forgave myself and gave myself permission to move on, man, it was so freeing. And guess what? I still mess up. I still, but that's it with anything. I mean, if imagine watching football and this star running back, fumbles the ball and then he just walks out of the game. I'm done.
Right.
I mean, you can't do that. I mean, think of some of the greatest athletes in the world.
I guess I'm not good at this. I guess I'll just go to the locker room. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Play it in the NFL. He fumbles the ball. He just walks out. I'm done.
Right.
No, you know what he does? Right. He does that. Does he get yelled at? Yeah. The coach is over there screaming. Players are like, dude, what's going on? And guess what? You get back and you do it again. And we got to have that kind of mentality of, listen, mistakes are going to happen. And they're going to happen and going to happen. There's no one on the face of this earth that doesn't have a battle or struggle. Show me someone. I don't care how much money they have, and money doesn't make you happy.
No.
Your true wealth, and you'll read that in my book, is true wealth is living the life that you want, living the life on your terms. And that's the way I like to say it, is I live life on my terms. And yes, it's uncomfortable at times, because I know the uncomfortableness creates comfortability in certain areas. And so what is that saying? Hard men create good times create, soft men,
people.
soft people create hard times. So it's a cycle. Right. I said, man, I think I learned that in the military.
There's an Elton John song in there somewhere from a Disney movie.
Exactly. So you just got to forgive and forget and move on. And, you're probably going to make a mistake again. That's okay. You learn from them. That's why they're called scars. They heal up and help you prevent you from doing that same thing again.
Right. Jon, this has just been remarkable. I'm really looking forward to this book, and I'm looking forward to incorporating a lot of it into what I do. If people want to sign up and get notifications, they can go to jonberryhill.com, and it's Jon.
That's correct. Right. Jon, Jon. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Of course, Warrior to Wealth is its own page. So jonberryhill.com is my website, but I am on Instagram and Facebook. You'll see me. I'm a real estate guy there. So we're experimenting with stuff, but the Warrior to Wealth page is jonberryhill.com.
Right. Jon, I'm going to extend that I'd love to have you back. I'd love to have you back as a guest maybe early next year. I'd love to see what you accomplish with the launch of this book and the lives that you touch. And I just want to thank you for sharing what's possible and being so open with us, because that inspires people when they see. It's easy to look at someone with their end result and discount the tough times, the mistakes, the failures, the disappointments in yourself, the lack of belief, and then reclaiming it and building it. And I want to thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable about your journey.
Absolutely. Well, that's the whole goal, is to inspire and show people we all make mistakes. We all fall short. But listen, just get up and do it again, and do it again better. And don't do the bad thing again.
That's right. When I come to Alabama in you and I can meet. I want to see the dually, and I'll show you my RV, and we can share our vehicle joy. But thank you so much. And if you're listening to this episode of The Interstate and you found anything valuable, please like, subscribe, follow, and leave a comment on what one of your biggest goals and dreams are right now that get you out of bed and get you excited to be a warrior for wealth.